Round 27, NRL, this is it. The final round for the New Zealand Warriors in the regular season, up against the Dolphins for the second time this year, over there in Brisbane. A lot of changes. Let's see how this one might play out. Hey team, welcome back into the Warriorholic. Well, we've done it. We made it through 27 rounds, well, to the start of the 27th round here. Thanks for sticking with me. My first season here, just like the Dolphins. I'm really stoked that you've all chosen to be, part of the channel and be part of the journey together this year. Can't wait to get through this one and into the finals, but for now, let's celebrate the final round of the year, team. Let's have a look at a lot of these players getting a chance that haven't been in there for a while. Up against a pretty strong Dolphins team. Man, who knows how this could go. Before we actually get into the the breakdown and what have you, I sat there on the train this morning heading into work, thinking about, man, what kind of team was Webby going to name today? So I kind of put an A and a B scenario there, and the A scenario was kind of a little bit of a piss take, but looking at mass changes versus a team I thought he might make a couple of changes depending on how things went. It turned out that my A team, that was a bit of a random guess, came pretty close to the mark. A few there that I didn't expect, a few there that I think a lot of people didn't expect. But at the end of the day, I think he had to step away from let's see if we can win this, every game possible and as many games as possible mentality for the greater good, which is to try and win a grand final now. So, we've probably put a little bit at risk at getting this win here. We've put a bit of a risk in us winning that first round of the semis for the Cup team with a lot of their players coming up. But at the end of the day, we're in this to win an NRL Grand Final. So I think, we'll all agree that Webby's made the best decision. He's rested some of those key players that we didn't want to get injured, that have played big minutes, in order to really get them freshed up and ready to go. So I'm confident that he's made the right decision. I still think we've fielded a competitive team. The Dolphins have got some inexperienced guys here, particularly on their bench, so it could play out anyway. But let's see how the teams line up and how the stats go. But I don't think too many of them are going to reflect how things might actually turn out on the weekend. So here we go. This is a pretty short one. We've only played once. This is their first year. We've got a 100% winning rate against them, 1 from 1. Current season, they've got 8 wins from their 24 starts and 14th. They started pretty well there, but a lot of people, acknowledged from the start they didn't quite have the depth in their roster, and when some of their senior players got injured, it made it tough for a while there. But you got to give them their credit. Wayne didn't use all their cap, bought some experienced journeymen, didn't have a huge amount of X factor there, but a couple of their guys, the Hammer and Isako, have really, really stepped up. Tessinue as well have had outstanding seasons. Cody Nikorima's probably had his best season in the NRL for a number of years, so they've done pretty well. They've got a solid forward pack, but at the end, I think 14th is probably a fair reflection from what you would expect from a team like that. I don't think they were ever going to get the spoon, and no one ever really put them in that conversation. Versus us, 16 wins from 23 games. Sitting in third, it's just, probably more than any of us could have expected to come out of this. No matter what happens this week, we still sit in the top 4 there. There's a remote chance we could drop down to 4th if we lose by a big margin and the Storm win by a big margin. But hey, I don't think it has a huge impact on the outcome. All in all, we still get a home semi. And I think the long-term investment in resting these players is well worth the risk in the short term. We'll go into these team stats and the like, because they've been built on a whole year's worth of performance, and I think they will probably reflect the Dolphins, but less so us. So 486 for, 621 against for them, minus 135. It was looking a lot better for a while here, but not so much now. Versus us, 562 for, 414 against for a plus 148. 300 odd points difference between the two teams there is a lot over a season. But on an average here, they're 21 to 17 with a minus 6. We're 24 to 18 with a plus 6, so 12 points difference. You'd like to think if both teams were at full strength, we'd probably win by more than 12 points, but It'll be interesting to see how it goes this time. Form guide, we're coming off the back of what's that, 7 wins in a row, 7 wins, 7 wins in a row now, I think it is. Of our last 5 there, obviously 5 in a row, and they've lost 5 in a row. Looking at their total scores for and against over those 5 games, 98 for 141 against for a -41. 5-game average 20 versus 28 for -8, so not too dissimilar from their whole year average actually. Only a couple of points in that. And versus us there, for our last 5, it's 126 for, 88 against for a +38, and 25 for, 18 against average +7. So, both the averages over the past 5 games kind of reflect how the teams have gone over the year, but I think particularly for us, it's good to see us with a net average of points conceded of 18, which would generally get you up in the top 4 or 5 teams in the comp as far as points conceded go. So well done to the Warriors on really turning that around. It's one stat that we've never really been that strong in. Again, like I've mentioned every week recently, you can't always see a big difference when you look at some of these stats like completion, both on 78, tackle efficiency, 86.5 versus 88.1. Nothing in either of those that would indicate you're at the complete opposite end of the tables. Tries as well, 86 for them in 10th versus 98 for us in 8th. Only 2 positions different. Line breaks, 109 in 13th versus 131 for us in 5th. Tackle breaks, 707 in 14th for them, 759 for us in 11th. This one's a telling factor though. Missed tackles, 830 for them in 5th, and 739 for us. We're down in 12th. So, that's one of the top 5 least missed tackles in the comp, which is a really good sign for a top 4 team. Rightio then, this is it's going to be a little bit hard to get into too much detail with these matchups, because to be honest, there's a couple of players in the Dolphins I don't know a lot about, and I haven't had a chance, been so bloody busy, to actually go through and add in here the New South Wales Cup stats for the guys like Tuolpiki and Volkman. But to start off with, we've got Tuolpiki up against the Hammer there at fullback. Just the 4 games for Tuolpiki versus 19 for the Hammer. Completely different kind of players. You've got lightning speed, big, tall, rangy guy versus the really quick, nippy kind of guy there. One who's had a lot of footy this year, including State of Origin and a real standout State of Origin, versus a young guy still making his way. Average 118 metres versus 146. Tackle efficiency 75 versus 80.8. Nothing in that at fullback considering how few tackles they make. Tackle breaks 18 versus 83. But again, what do you got there? Almost 5 times as many games. So Tuolpiki's holding his own on a game-by-game basis there. But no line breaks and 1 try assist versus 10 line breaks and 4 try assists. But again, look at try assists per game. It's not too dissimilar there. 0 tries for 15. So given the numbers, you'd have to give this to the Hammer, and in reality he probably will have a bigger contribution on the outcome of the game, you would imagine, but I really expect Tuolpiki to stand up and thrive on getting that extra game time there, knowing fully in advance and being able to prepare again. I really like him being little, the nippy guy around the ruck, and they've got some older big forwards there who may tire towards the end of the game. So I'm really curious, but I hope they both have particularly our man Tuolpiki has a solid game there, but I expect a pretty interesting matchup. We won't see them come head to head too often, but yeah, Tuolpiki to have an absolute blinder for us, eh? And I reckon he'll get sort of top 3 points out of the Warriors. Mark my words. My man, Big Ed Cossey, great to see him back in the lineup here. Are they resting Dallin, or is it that knee was still a little bit niggly? I'm not sure, but it's great to see Ed get a bit of time here. Struggled a little bit in Cup in the game I saw him at Mount Smart there. I think I can't remember, they played before the Manly game. Still had a little bit of a crooked knee, a couple of handling errors and so forth. But the game I watched him play against the Panthers, he was definitely much better. So he's coming off the back of this is going to be his 10th game after playing 9 in a row there before he got those injuries. Up against Isako, who I think has been one of the top 5 or so turnaround performers this year, probably actually with the hammer as well. SJ and the like have just really exceeded expectations with his 23 games. Average running meters 131 versus 106 there. Tackle efficiency 77.1 versus 71.6. Nothing in that, again, because the centres don't make a huge amount of tackles. Tackle break 16 versus 99. Isako with centres, wingers these boys are. 99 tackle breaks, man, that's right up there. What do you got here? Line breaks 5 and try assists none versus 26 line breaks and 3 try assists. 5 tries versus 23. Isako, like on the numbers, is as good as anyone in the comp. More tries than Dallin, so he's going to be a handful for Big Ed to take care of. Particularly with his speed, Ed's not the fastest wing in the world, but again, he's a big boy, a big wingspan, so hopefully he can cover up a bit of a gap there. Maybe put a bit of a hit on him a couple of times to soften him up like he did to Militalo there against the Sharks. So good luck, Big Ed, but you got your challenge in front of you there. Isako, a Kiwi boy doing, Kiwi things out there, just about as good as Dallin, so he might just get the nudge for me. Montoya up against Jack Bostock. Got to be honest, I don't know this boy, and I honestly haven't had a chance to watch any of the Dolphins games. I tried to get in and watch a bit on Friday, but I didn't get a chance. I was a bit tired after watching our game, so I don't know much about this boy. 23 games versus his for Montoya versus his 3. I'll tell you, he's a big boy though. He's a metre 92, I think it is, about 97 kg, so he's not a small fella. Similar size to Montoya. Average running meter is only 79 though, so maybe an indication he hasn't played a lot of starting footy, I'm not sure. Tackle efficiency though, 81.5 up against Montoya's 72. Tackle breaks 75 versus 3, but can't compare that number of games played. No line breaks, no try assists, 1 try versus 16 line breaks, 1 try assist and 8 tries. So got to give this one to my man Montoya. I think it'll be too much. It's great to see him and Pompey being the only 2 guys I think now who are actually going to play every game for us. An interesting, I think, notice there this week, just looking up some of the random stats, Adam Pompey's played the 4th most minutes of anyone in the NRL this year. So pretty random stat there, but Montoya is right up there with him, having played pretty much all of our games. So yeah, expect him to dominate that one. Rocco Berry up against Tessie New. I'm kind of surprised Rocco's playing. He was one of the guys I thought might have been rested, but maybe the knee's not that bad and it's something he can play through. And probably not a huge amount of options there if they wanted to rest Dallin. So we've got 12 games for him up against 16 for Tessie New. Been in and out a little bit. I think he's had a suspension and some injuries. Average running meter is a bit different here, 72 versus 138. Tackle efficiency 91.9 versus 87. Tackle breaks 26 versus 52, so not a huge amount for Tessie New, being that is a very big boy. Line breaks 3 versus 7. Try assist 8 versus none. 2 tries versus 5. I think it's a kind of a case where you've got a big bustling guy who does a lot of work himself, rather than having that, necessarily the finesse of Rocco. We've seen over the past half a dozen weeks that Rocco hasn't struggled to control a bigger man, so I don't think he'll be too much of an issue for him defensively, and hopefully you'll be able to use his subtle skills to kind of get one around him here and put his wingers away. I'll be curious to see how they actually line up, whether they mix things up, if Kossi just goes on to the right edge there, or whether he's actually ends up onto the left edge over the other side there. But yeah, curious to see how it's mixed up. But at the moment, I think I'm going to give this to my man Rocco. I just think he's continued to step up week in, week out. He was looking bloody good last week until he got injured, but Tessie New, expect him to have an impact on the game. Adam Pompey up against the deserter, old Ewan Aiken. I was never a huge fan, and I'm definitely less of a fan after he walked out on the Warriors. That said, I'm not disappointed he's gone. 23 games for Adam, as I said, 4th in the NRL for the minutes played, up against 21 for Aiken. I think he's been injured and suspended himself. 101 average running meters versus 129. This is kind of surprising, actually. I had the impression that Aiken was struggling at some point with his defense. I heard it mentioned in commentaries, but 86% for Kossi versus 91.9 for Aiken. So maybe his tackles he's missing are at the wrong time. Tackle break 61 versus 73. Surprising, he's not a huge guy, but I guess all that time in the forwards maybe build up his power a little bit. But he's pretty one-dimensional. I don't think you'll see there not a huge amount of try assists. Doesn't have the best passing game in the world, but what do you got? 8 line breaks for Adam, 8 try assists and 5 tries versus 7 line breaks, 5 try assists and 4 tries for Ewan. Adams handled much better centres than this fella over the course of the season. I see no reason why he won't be able to handle Aiken, and I'd love to see him just build on that game he had last week, which I think was one of his best games all year. Really heavily involved, good meters, a lot of tackles, some great footwork, really awesome try there running that line off Metcalf. Hope he dominates him and puts an absolute number on him and stays healthy. Alrighty, now is where things get interesting again. Tamati Martin, welcome back, brother. Off the back of, I think it was about 50 minutes in Cup last week. A couple of try assists that I saw there. It looked pretty sharp. Just the 5 games this year up against Cody Nikorima, who's another guy who's actually having a really great turnaround season. Like I said, I've never really thought he was, I felt like when he was with us, he was a bit of a poor man's SJ. Skill, but he just never quite delivered on that level. But he's shown some great versatility for them this year. He looks really small. He's actually a couple centimetres taller than me, so it makes me feel like a short ass because he looks like a midget out there. But it's pretty crazy to think a guy, not much taller than me is able to compete at fullback in the NRL, playing 5'8" this week. What do we got here? Average running meters for Tamati Martin, only 59 versus 92 for Cody, but again, it's a reflection he's played all over the place. At fullback, obviously, he's going to get a higher average meters there. Tackle efficiency, 91.4 versus 85. That's something I'm really looking forward to seeing how Tamati goes, coordinating our defence and being a rock there on the edge. Try assist 2 versus 16. That's a lot of try assists there for Cody. Line breaks 5 versus 22. That's right up there in line breaks for Cody. And 1 try. No tries versus 4. I'm going to back my man Tamati to really come in and have a big impact, just like he did in the first trial. A lot of people were concerned about him having minutes and getting miles in the legs. For me, it's just get him back in there in first grade and start building combinations, particularly with that edge there. He's going to be a vital part of our team going into the finals. Cody will have a big impact on their team. He's an X-Factor, live wire guy, but got to back my man Tamati. He's going to step up and show why he should have been there the whole time if he wasn't injured. As much as I love Metcalf, and I struggled a little bit with Tamati's contribution in the beginning of the year when I wasn't able to kind of see what he was doing. But after a couple of weeks, when you really start seeing the intricacies, I started to appreciate him a lot. So let's go, brother. Get through the game, make some good plays, get that confidence up, get the legs worked, and just don't get injured, eh? And here we go again. Finally get to see Ronald Volkman in his preferred 7 jersey. I've said it a bunch of times on this channel. He's not a 6. Too similar to SJ to play at 6. But while he looked a little bit out of place in the games he's played this year, he delivered in a couple of big moments. So I have every confidence he can step up. I just like the way he dominates and runs the team in Cup there. He's a very dominant half, so I'm really curious how he gets to go with it. The team on his back here. Up against Sean O'Sullivan, and another former Warrior there. A bit of a bit part player who sort of, started to play some really good footy at the beginning of this year before he got the pec injury. Seems to be coming back into it okay, but you've just got the 2 games there, playing at 5'8" in his non-regular position versus 13 so far this year for O'Sullivan. Average kicking there, just a 69 for Volkman, but that's, like I said, his first grade numbers when SJ was doing all the kicking. I know he kicks a lot more, and his numbers are a lot higher there in Cup. Up against only 275 for O'Sullivan, so it shows they mix the kicking up a little bit. Tackle efficiency 80.6 versus 90.6. You know, Volkman's not a huge guy, but he's very stocky. You know, he's built very much like Stacey, but a little bit taller. So hopefully his defense will be a little bit better there, playing at halfback rather than 5'8". 0 try assists, 0 line break assists, and the 1 try versus 8 try assists, 5 line break assists, and no tries. So I think Volkman is a definite player of the future. I think given the time, and hopefully if he has the patience, he is the guy I envisage will take over from SJ. I know Metcalf wants to play halfback, but for me I think it's just something that Volkman's built to do. Metcalf's X factor a little bit wider out I think is a little bit more valuable, so I'd love Volkman to have a real statement game and show us that he is the guy to take over once SJ leaves in the future, and give us the confidence if he's needed throughout the finals here, he can do it. So good luck to the man. I don't think he's up against the most challenging half in the comp to deal with, so I'm pretty sure he can do it. Alright, very different forward pack here, people. And Bunty taking over that lead prop role there up against Jesse Bromwich. 20 games apiece. Running meters not hugely dissimilar. 58 for Bunty versus 99. We saw Bunty delivered, I think it was about 90 meters last week. Playing the bigger minutes there. I think he did a really good job. You know, 30 tackles at 100% tackle efficiency. I think that'll be his role again here, and a lot of the leg work will come down to Barnett. What do we got here? Post-contact meters 19.5 versus 36. Tackle efficiency 97.6 versus 92.2. Tackle breaks 16 versus 15, so not too dissimilar there. And tries 1 apiece. So I think Jesse Bromwich has struggled to deliver on some of the big numbers he used to. You know, their legs are getting a little bit older, heavier, but you know, he's a workhorse. He'll get in there and do a lot of the clean-up work just like Bunty will. So for me, it's all about his defense, not making mistakes, you know, taking those big hits, big hit-ups, and really trying to drive those legs and getting a bit more post-contact meters and trying to get a bit more gas out of him, you know, to play probably 30-odd, 40 minutes this week like he did last week. Hope he can do it, but yeah, it's going to be a bit of a mission to control Big Jesse, being their captain. Great to see Mitch Barnett back up against Mark Nicholas here. What do we got? 11 games versus 20. 139 meters versus 107, 49 post contact versus 42, tackle efficiency 91.5 versus 93.7, tackle breaks 20 versus 23, 2 tries versus 3. So, you know, you think Nichols is a bit of a workhorse, but he's shown that he's got some pretty solid numbers when it comes to post contact meters. Not bad, but tackle breaks, big rangy lanky kind of guy. But Barnett, even though he's not a genuine prop, you know, his propping numbers are matching a guy like Nicholas here, who's a veteran in the front row. So I expect Barnett to come back fired up after another couple of weeks off. Hopefully those stitches have cleaned up properly. He can just go nuts. You know, I expect him to lead the way in our defense. I expect him to be the guy who leads the way with our forward momentum, stepping into Adam's shoes there. He'll definitely bring the aggression. He'll definitely make some statements. So, you know, I'd hope that he can dominate this this matchup against a bit more of a journeyman there. But, you know, who knows? Who knows? Next up, we've got a battle of a couple of young hookers here with Freddie Lussick up against Graham. Graham with just 8 games total. Freddie Lussick with the 10 now with us this season. 26 average running meters apiece. 92% tackle efficiency versus 94, basically the same. 1 try assist, 1 line break assist versus none, and no tries either. I think Lussick is continuing to develop. I think his key is his ability to put on those big hits on defense. Doesn't have the ruck manipulation yet that Egan has, but I think he holds up an end. I don't know too much about Graham at all, to be honest. So I expect it to be a pretty even matchup, but probably Lussick being a little bit more experienced. Hopefully you'll be able to see him, hopefully work a little bit over here, but probably a very 50-50 matchup for me. Josh Curran up against Kafusi. Great to see Curran, getting another start here. I was a little bit surprised they put Jackson Ford on the bench again, but again, it's probably a way to rest him without actually giving them the whole game off. 19 games now for Curran up against Kafusi's 15. Average of 57 running metres versus 103. Tackle efficiency 90.9 versus 94.4. Tackle breaks 24 against 9. I found that kind of hard to believe that Kafusi only has 9, but I double checked it and he has 4 tries versus none. I kind of felt like Kafusi was a bit more of a line breaking bustler, but I think maybe he does a little bit more of an on defense, because he definitely put some big hits on there. Can't remember, he played earlier in the area and we just went nuts and was just smashing people. But again, similar to Neocordia, he has a bit of an issue with trying to kind of curve the aggression and does tend to get suspended a bit, hence just the 15 games there. Again, I'd like to see Curran make the most of his opportunity, make Webby really consider who is the best option there out of him and Ford going into the finals. Tough though, you've got an experienced international and state of origin guy here. I think it's going to be very close, 50-50, but I'm hoping that Curran's motivation to prove himself at the finals will slightly get him up over an older man who's probably pretty much ready for Mad Monday. Neocordia versus Lemuelu. I didn't know too much about him before we came up against him the last game. He actually played pretty well. Similar size to Neocordia, and you'll see the numbers here aren't too dissimilar. 18 games versus 22, 101 metres versus 95, 92% tackle efficiency versus 90, 5 line breaks versus 11, 28 tackle breaks versus 44, and 3 versus 7. So it shows he's a pretty strong attacking weapon, even though he's a very similar size to Neocordia. That said, I think in the back half of the season, or the last third, we've definitely seen Neocordia step up and become an attacking weapon, scoring tries, breaking tackles, being used in a much more offensive way, but also with the big hits on defense. So maybe the total year's numbers here aren't a true reflection, so I expect this to be a very confrontational matchup. Neocordia, just keep that aggression controlled. No suspensions, brother. No suspensions. We need you there for the final, so hopefully he has a big game here. Another one that surprised me a little, I thought they may have gone for Ford and Neocordia in the second row and Curran at lock, but they've gone for Dylan Walker. Whether he actually ends up starting there, I'm not sure. Maybe I noticed that Tom O'Leary's played a little bit of 13 in Cup recently. Maybe he gets the nod there, and then we still use Walker off the bench as an impact. I'm not sure. 20 games versus 21 here up against Bromwich. Average running 97 versus 95, very similar. What do we got there? Tackle efficiency 91 versus 93. 25 tackle breaks versus just the 15. 4 try assists versus none. 2 tries versus 1. So you've got the more traditional prop like 13 and Bromwich, who's not the most creative, but he's a genuine workhorse and just never stops going, versus the fleet-footed, creative Walker. You'd hope that high intensity and speed will get the better of that matchup. Hopefully you'll have a bigger contribution there, trying to cover the ball-playing abilities and the work rate of Tohu. So, yep, I'm going to give it to Walker. I'm a massive fan if he does start there. I'm curious to see how many minutes they play him and how many he can go for, because we're going to need his leadership out there. I'm assuming he's probably captain this week as well. Rightio, up against... now we've got the benches. Rightio, now onto the benches. Genuine surprise for me here to see Braden Williami back. Man, I don't think he's played any game time in goodness knows how long. He hasn't been playing Cup. So I'm really unsure as to what the situation is, why he hasn't played, why he's all of a sudden here. Does he actually play? We know what Webby's like with trying to change things up. We've got a bench full of debutants on the reserves there, so if he does drop out, we'll see a debut probably. And we've got Ford, Ciro and Tom O'Leary getting back in and getting another chance versus Wallace, Katoa, Plath and SASA. So what do we got? We've got a centre who can probably play a bit of back row if needed. We've got a back rower. We've got a back rower, middle forward, hooker, 5'8" centre cover, and pretty much a middle forward there, versus Jared Wallace and SAS are both genuine props. And oddly enough, Katoa and Plath are both halves. So you've got a halfback and a 5'8" in there. Does one of those guys drop out? I'm not too sure. Katoa's had a really good first season coming in here, playing the 21 games, really explosive. So I expect him to have a bit of an impact. Maybe he even comes into start and Nikorima goes to a 14 or something like that. Wayne playing games. Plath's only played the one first grade game and he made his debut against us, and honestly I don't remember too much about it. Son of John Plath, is it? The ex-Bronco. So honestly I can't rate him too much, but so we've for once got a bigger bench there, but I highly expect both of these to change for some reason. Particularly curious about Williami. I thought he played really well, and I didn't realise he'd just played the 2 games. I thought he played a few more than that before he got injured. So hard to know. Hard to know the thinking there. But I'd really love him to come in and have a really awesome game, to know that he can come in as a centre cover there if one of the boys do go down, because I thought he was really solid, particularly coordinating his side. He showed he's got a bit of pace in those old legs. Jackson Ford, I anticipate having a massive impact when he comes on, like we saw from last week, Sirenen. Curious to see how he goes with the forward rotation there. Probably will play middle minutes, maybe 13, which I like. Like I said in last week's review, I quite like him in the middle there. And Ali, he's going to be a straight out prop. How many minutes they break up between him and Bunty, because they're both sort of 20-minute style props. And we don't have Tohu in there to rotate in there. So, man, it's going to be really interesting to see how all these subs work this week. And again, 2 workhorse props and a couple of halves. Wow. I'm giving it to us purely for the fact that we've got boys want to prove themselves that they should be in the squad for the finals. What an opportunity, the first time since 2018 to play finals footy. You'd really want to take this opportunity with both hands and step up. So while I think on paper you've got a much more solid, experienced, particularly this season, consistent team in the starting lineup there of the Dolphins versus the mixed up team we've got, but surprisingly everyone's played footy for us this year. There's no debutants in there. Everyone's done a job when they've been given an opportunity. It really comes down to, can we get enough go forward? Can we control the middle to unleash our backs, because we've still got a lot of potential at the back there. Questions are rife. I don't think I've given you too many answers. I apologise, it's not quite as prepared as it could be normally, but I wasn't even thinking I was going to be able to get this done. It's 10:30 at night here, and I've been working since 7 o'clock this morning. I thought, no, I'm going to get this done for you guys, get it up so you can have a bit of a review, enjoy the final week's build-up for the last, the regular season game of the year. Enjoy it. We've got nothing really to lose here. Nothing to get nervous about other than injuries. Touch wood, they don't come. All the best to the boys. All the Kiwis who can make it, jump out to Suncorp there. Fire it up, get that Warriors chant going. Up the mighty Warriors. I'm going to say we get it done by 2 points. Something, I don't know, mate. What are we going to get? 3, maybe 18-16 to the Warriors. How about that? I'd love it to be that close, but we get it up and done. All in with the Warriors. Those of you who are taking a break, SJ, Tohu, AFB, Dallin and the like, Egan, enjoy the break, boys. You've earned it. Stay safe, everyone. Get back in there so we've got a full-strength team to pick from next week, including Jazz, who's meant to be back. Up the mighty Warriors. Here come the finals, people. Get ready.